All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Friday afternoon, man. Another edition of the NBA Report. CP the Franchise, Alex Rotaro, special guest Corey Tulliver of the No Ceilings Podcast joins us today. We're going to talk about our NBA draft winners and losers, man. Draft day is over. The anticipation is over. We're going to give you our reactions to it all. Plus, man, trades. We're going to react to the CP3 trade. CP3 headed to Golden State with Jordan Poole going to the Wizards. You got Marcus Smart and Kristaps Porzingis and Tyus Jones trading places. Plus, where will Dame go, man? We're going to lock into it. Let's get it going. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. And another edition of the NBA Report, man. Salute. All right, fellas. Draft day is over. Corey, how you feeling, man? I mean, how does it feel to be done? All the hard work, all the effort you guys put in. How does it feel, man?
It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. I feel like the work is like officially done after Summer League. Because we'll do the previews, we'll be there to break it down and report live. But we get a little break before, we head to Vegas. So I slept in today. I feel well rested. Nice. Draft night is an absolute monster. The stream never ends. The draft never ends. Somehow they're supposed to have just, all the picks are supposed to be timed, and it feels like they vary on how long they actually take. I thought the second round is supposed to fly, and then, it would be like one pick doesn't get announced for 8 minutes, and I'm just like, what's going on here? But yeah. It was a ton of fun, man. I had a lot of fun breaking it down this year. A lot of traveling around, getting to see guys, up close behind the scenes. It was a really good draft cycle.
Good stuff, man. Seems so. You guys did a lot of great things with the content. The team is deep, man. A lot of sharp minds with the No Ceilings crew, man. So continued success and keep it going. Now, let's get into last night, man. Who did you feel like was the biggest winner of the draft? Biggest winner of the draft last night?
Yeah, obviously outside of the San Antonio Spurs. Besides them, for me, it was the Utah Jazz. There's a very good chance that Danny Ainge is, got access to a shared file in my notes on my phone, because they scooped up 3 of my top 8 prospects in the draft.
Wow.
With their 3 first-round picks. I think that the shooting that they added, getting Taylor Hendricks, who shot 40% from 3, Bryce Sensabaugh, who shot 40% from 3, and Keontae George, who shot at about 35%, but the volume he was putting up was like Trae Young volume. So he was taking tough shots. They got some shooters, some shot makers, the defensive versatility that they can offer now with Hendricks and Kessler in the front court. Yeah. I mean, if you have any concerns about Sensabaugh and Keontae George defensively, you don't have to worry about it. You got 2 guys backing them up. They crushed it, man. They absolutely crushed it, in my opinion. I think they got the best value plays in the draft.
How would you describe Sensabaugh's game? 6'5" out of Ohio State, small forward. How do you describe him?
Man, mid-range master. He's the evolutionary DeMar DeRozan, because he shoots threes. He shot 41% on 11 threes per 100 possessions. He basically, the shooting scoring season that he had, was the only guy since 2008 who have been on par, and you could arguably make the case that he was better, is Jamal Murray and Devin Booker. This dude is a real deal bucket. Like 40 points per 100 possessions. That's Zion Williamson territory as a freshman. The skill level off the charts. Now, one of the reasons that he slipped is because he had 2 knee surgeries in high school. He had a knee surgery to end the year at the end of his freshman season that took him, I think he got cleared a week before the draft to actually start working out for teams. And there are concerns, he's a little heavy. He looks like a linebacker rather than a hooper. So, but he's dropped some weight, and, they all do at this time of the year, right? Nothing to do but train. But he looks a little slimmer, and he's going to have to continue doing that. But that's why he fell. Otherwise, this dude was a lottery pick most likely. So they took a guy that they felt like has a real chance to be a lock to be an NBA player, and potentially, in my opinion, be a top 5 player in this draft if he stays healthy and takes his conditioning seriously, because his offensive bag is, there's nothing really you could do when he gets to a spot. He's just going to get to a spot and shoot it.
Who would you say is your biggest loser then of this year's draft?
Biggest loser, man. That's a tough one. I feel like a lot of teams did pretty well, but I like this draft, man. I don't know, like I think the teams did well. Like this was a deep draft, so it's hard. The Nets. I know that'll make you guys happy. I didn't like the Nets draft.
Hey, Knicks fans might say the Knicks for making us go through the whole damn draft with no pick, not even a second round pick.
I mean, they had the 21st and 22nd pick. They took Dariq Whitehead, who was a potential top 5 guy coming into the year. I was never a huge fan because I thought he settled for tough shots that he didn't have to touch to make consistently, and he was just like a bigger, stronger guy in high school, which really helped him. He played at Montverde, and he was a part of those Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Duren teams since he was in 8th grade. So he had that pedigree, but, I felt like that almost added to the legend rather than, was something that actually played out. He was injured this year. He's now had 2 surgeries on his foot, and the Nets doctor did the surgery, so they obviously felt comfortable with the recovery process. But he did shoot 40% from 3 this year on limited volume. So if you're getting a guy who's going to shoot 40% from 3 in spot up situations and maybe can attack a closeout, then I think you might have got a player. If you expect him to be the guy that we thought he could be coming into the year, I think you might be disappointed. Then Noah Clowney, he's not going to help you right away. He was on that Alabama team with Brandon Miller. He's a hypothetical guy. Like if you just watch the highlights, you see him knocking down threes and the shot looks good, but he shot 27% from 3 and like 65% from the free throw line. He gets in foul trouble a lot because he's just raw and young. I like him. I thought it was a little early for him, but I think there was value on the board that could have been had. And I think they reached for those 2 guys, even if they might be okay players, but I think they left value on the board.
I mean, the winning country might have been France, man, because they continue to add NBA caliber players into this pool. And you look at the San Antonio Spurs. Obviously, Wembanyama was the lock there for them since the lottery ended. But then they also get Sidi Sissoko out of G League Ignite. What do you think about his game and what he could bring to that Spurs team?
Yeah, I love City, man. I broke down film with him this year for No Ceilings. He's got a great personality. Like he's going to be one of those guys where all of his teammates just absolutely love him. He's big, like 6'6", 6'7", long wingspan and thick. So like he's young, he's going to put on weight with that frame. He could really pass the ball. It really shows in transition. I think he was 2nd in the G League in dunks this year. So when he attacks the rim, he is ready to throw it. He will put you on a poster. And it's funny, when I asked him about it, he kind of had this like childlike whimsical answer. Like he just has fun and enjoys the game. He seems like a guy that Pop is going to love developing. I think, I don't think he's going to contribute next year. And he's probably going to spend more time in the G League, but definitely, an interesting guy to put around Victor and to help him maybe feel, comfortable as he, moves into San Antonio.
Well, what do you think fans should expect out of Wembanyama in his first year, man? What are you expecting in his first year?
I mean, CP, that the crazy thing is nobody knows what to expect from him in his first year. We've never seen anything like this. I don't want to sit and put a cap on what he might be able to do during this first year. I remember when I was a teenager and LeBron and Melo were, coming up, and I was Team Melo. And, I was kind of, hating on LeBron. And then he was that Kings game. And right away, he had like that breakaway dunk in the first quarter and had this monster first quarter. And I was like, oh, I guess this dude is legit, right? He's a little bit more legit than I was hoping for. And I think Wembanyama is going to come out of the gate and just be an absolute stud. I mean, step back 3 into a putback dunk, like, what we've never seen that before. What else can he do? What else is he going to do? You know what I mean? So, he's not perfect. He's still a developing shooter. The shot looks good. He makes those crazy one-legged threes. He takes a lot of tough ones, but he shot under 30% from, the second year in a row. I think that he's going to have to prove that he could play an NBA schedule. His schedule this year was once a week. So, he was able to rest and recover. He was banged up a lot more when he, last season before he was with the Mets, when he was with Asphalt and, they were playing a EuroLeague schedule with, real grown men in the second best league in the world. He got banged up a little bit more often. So for him, I just want to see him stay healthy. And, I'm sure the Spurs, they started the whole rest thing, so they're going to be cautious with that. But on the court, I think that we're going to see things that we've never seen before. And I hope they don't rush it. I was thinking, somebody asked me on the stream last night, like, should they go after Fred VanVleet? And I was like, I think they should just go with what they got. Like when the Cavs tried to rush the rebuild with LeBron, it backfired. When the Pelicans tried to rush the rebuild with Anthony Davis, kind of backfired. It looks like the Luka rebuild has backfired a little bit. Like, just let this thing build organically, and you'll know when the time is right. You have this dude for at least 7 years. Like, be patient with it.
Yeah. I do wonder who the vets will be that they'll put around him. Duncan had Robinson, and then Parker and Ginobili had Duncan, and Robinson was hanging around the team. They're going to put Kawhi Leonard had all three of those guys for him, right? Tony Parker they said he still has a compound in San Antonio, so he's certainly going to be a mentor. But I do wonder if there's a vet that they're going to put out there to kind of shadow him and kind of be with him throughout the year to kind of just get him acclimated to the NBA and, the rules of the game.
And I think they should do that. I think every young team should do that. I think it's a big issue with why Houston's been the dumpster fire that they've been, the last couple of years, regardless of how much talent they've had. So they should definitely do it. But don't let that putting vets there get in the way of building for the long term. Like, Fred VanVleet might help you make, a play-in, playoff run, but is that the best thing for your franchise when you could still get a good vet that's going to show him all of those things and maybe doesn't help contribute to immediate winning in the same way? But Victor's competitive. He's going to want to win. Yeah. I'm sure Pop wants to win. Who knows how much longer he wants to coach. Maybe for 20 years, given the circumstance, but just they got to be smart about it. And obviously they've been one of the more successful organizations in the history of the league. So I would imagine they will be smart.
Pop trying to run another dynasty with Wemby. I can only imagine. But Corey, we had Rafael Barlow on last week, and for Victor Wembanyama, he thought that he'd probably be, not fully wrapped in plastic bubble wrap, but he thought that Wemby won't play as many games just because of his development, growth, still getting used to the NBA game, the amount of times that he played, like you said, once a week. Just getting ready for an NBA schedule. Do you expect the same thing, or should we expect him to play as many games as possible, like north of 70?
No, I wouldn't expect that. I agree. Shout out Raphael. I think the Spurs, they know the investment that they have, and when it's time for him to up, the amount of games played, the amount of minutes played, that'll be when they're ready to compete for something real. Right now, like you said, it's about getting him acclimated. It's about keeping him healthy and, doing his body right. Because let's be honest here. This is not LeBron, who was 6'8", 250 coming out, and you could see, this dude's going to be durable, right? We don't know what the health situation going forward is going to be for Wembanyama. The history of 7'3" guys coming into the league is not good. So and we've never seen anybody like this who's going to have so much responsibility, whether it's underneath the hoop or out on the perimeter. He's going to be everywhere. That's a lot of wear and tear to put on his body. Those knees, those feet, even KD, he's older now, but he's had those lower body injuries.
That fifth metatarsal.
Yeah. So I think that's why when people ask me, who's the best, is he the best prospect ever? I think you got to take that into consideration. LeBron never got hurt, and it didn't look like that was ever a concern. So, that's why I don't think he's on that same level as LeBron, just because I do think there are worries about his body, and that's why I think the Spurs are going to be, a little bit more cautious with him in the amount of games that they play him this year.
There it is, man. And then now, Wembanyama's friend's teammate, a guy who you felt like was going to be a fast riser in the lottery, Bilal Coulibaly, turned out that he was selected by the Pacers and was traded to the Wizards, 7-8 trade. What do you think about that move by the Wizards?
Yeah, well, we were a little upset with him at first because on the stream we were 6 for 6 up to that point on our mock draft, and the Pacers played it the right way. They knew that teams wanted Coulibaly. They took him, got some capital, and then Jarris Walker ended up on the Pacers. So we got that right, just not envisioning the trade. But Coulibaly, man, like, he is the gamble. He's the guy who's worth the shot. 6'8", 7'3" wingspan. Some of the slickest footwork you're going to see in transition. I mean, the smooth Euros, like, he looks like he's ice skating on the court. You know what I mean? Like, some guys, they just move the right way on a basketball court. It doesn't look like he's training against cones. Like, the proprioception he's got on the court is crazy. The shot he's developing, I think it's going to be a lot of catch and shoot looks early on, even, with this team kind of rebuilding. But playing with a guy like Tyus Jones, he's going to find him in his spots. They're going to run out, get easy buckets. He's going to be a big-time defender down the line, versatile, switchable. I think he's going to have moments this year, show those flashes, not show you what he could actually be, but he's one of these guys that, I remember having a conversation months ago going, with when people were having him in the 20s, and I'm like, if we feel confident having him here, why aren't we not just putting him in the lottery? Like, this guy is going to be in the lottery. His dimensions are too appealing. He's playing with Victor Wembanyama. He's going to have a deep run. Like, this guy's going to be a lottery pick. It was as clear as day, but he's a lot of fun. I like it for a rebuilding team.
And now, according to Zach Lowe, I was just kind of scrolling through Twitter. According to Zach Lowe, the reason why the Wizards had to trade with the Pacers to get him was because the Thunder were trying to trade up to get him. So, very interesting. Very interesting.
That OKC Thunder front office is loaded with assets. They have they have a type. Guys who could do a lot of things with the ball in their hand, play on or off the ball, long, switchable. And they got a guy like that, this year too. But that's who everybody knew that the Thunder were after Coulibaly. That was whether people just thought it or whether it was behind the scenes. Everybody knew he was a
kept secret
kind of guy. You're going to have to make a move up the board to get him if you wanted him, because people knew OKC was the floor.
Wow. Once again, we're talking to Corey Tulaba of the No Ceilings podcast, talking NBA draft winners and losers, NBA draft 2023 winners and losers. We are reacting to some of the best picks of the night. Cam Whitmore, another story. Supposed to be a lottery pick, coming out of Nova, the athleticism, the intensity, skill sets on both ends of the floor. Now, it was interesting because, I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm watching at the same time, and he's waiting. He's one of the last guys in the green room. Now, Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report comes on Twitter and says his medicals are an issue. Woj goes on the TV and says it's the workouts. That was the issue. He was a bad interviewer, didn't work out as well. There's questioning the motor and all of that. What did you make of that whole thing and as to why he dropped, man?
I was hearing a lot of the same things behind the scenes. I got a text earlier in the day, or even, we had gotten information at No Ceilings a couple of days before, like, Cam's going to be the guy who might slide. We mocked him at 9 on our mock draft before the draft. And the day of the draft, we heard he got bad news with a knee scope from his medicals, and then the follow-up was Houston's trying to trade for him at 10. So I thought that, with that 10th pick being on, being available, I thought that Houston was going to try to get that done if Cam actually made it there. And I thought that, Utah was the type of team that would have been willing to take that risk, because he kind of reminded me of Jaylen Brown coming out, where it was like really sloppy, but you saw this raw athletic guy that had a lot of skills. And I thought that was just an Ainge kind of pick. So when he started dropping, though, for me, it made sense. He was 9th on my board because, with that kind of athleticism, he measured as like a 100th percentile athlete at P3 when he was out in California. Like, he's a ridiculous physical freak, but as a basketball player, he's got a long way to go. He had a 6% assist rate, which means that he never passed the ball this year. when the ball went his way, it stopped. He dribbled it, and that thing was either a shot or a turnover, or he was going to the hoop. He's he's just really raw. He's young though, and that's why you buy into it because he's only 18. But he knocked down a lot of tough shots, but he's not the kind of shooter like Anthony Edwards was, where maybe you can foresee him knocking those down with consistency at the next level. And I feel like a lot of people got blinded by that, and that's why you were hearing all the rumors of him possibly going 4 to Houston. Now, it's clear Houston liked him a lot. You know what I mean? They were willing to take the risk at 20, but he's just got a long way to go. And to be honest, I don't think that fit is great. In Houston.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, they got Thompson, you got Green now.
Yeah,
you have Whitmore, you have Smith.
I'm cooler on Amen. I'm cooler on Amen. I saw both of these guys live a couple of times this year. And look, there's one ball.
Right,
what I mean?
Right.
Like Jalen Gray needs the ball. Şengün doesn't necessarily need the ball, but if you want to make the best use of him, he's gonna have the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
Whether it's like short roll stuff or whatever, you got to find him. Amen needs the ball more than anybody, and Cam needs the ball. Otherwise, he's just standing around.
Yeah.
So
and then you got what's my guy off the bench?
Jabari,
or you got Kevin Porter. You got Kevin Porter. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that ball's stopping. I mean, it's a tough. I think they're gonna suck. I don't care. Ime Udoka. That team is going to be trash. They're not going to be fun to watch. People are going to be like, they're so athletic because they're going to have highlights out in transition. They're going to suck this year. And there is, I know that there was a plan that they needed to get better because OKC has their pick next year. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how they use that $60 million cap space and see if they could get some, veterans to round that out. But yeah, you might be right. Might be a lot of mouths to feed. I'd like to see them go through Şengün a little more, man. Utilize his passing ability, man. He can hoop.
Yeah, that's what they would do if they're smart. But why'd you draft Amen Thompson with the 4th pick for if you're not giving him the ball? You know what I mean? Look, don't get me wrong. Amen Thompson, Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore might be the most athletic 1, 2, 3 in the history of not just the NBA, but basketball in general. The park, 2K, whatever. Like, you can't find 3 guys that are more athletic than those guys. But the pieces just don't fit. They just don't fit.
What do you think about the Toronto Raptors selecting Grady Dick?
I didn't hate it just because Grady's the kind of guy who is going to be a good NBA player. Like, he has an elite NBA skill, 41% from 3, 86% from the free throw line. He's a real deal shooter. He's 6'8". He's got to buy in to defense. I asked a player behind the scenes, what they thought about Grady, and he's like, as long as he allows himself to be coached, which he doesn't always do, not that he doesn't always do it, but like, it's not his favorite thing to put the effort into. Then he'll be all right. But he seems to me like a guy who's going to get targeted a lot early on. But, it's Project 6ix9ine, out in Toronto. So they have a lot of switchable guys that could go out and help him on that end and cover for him and those deficiencies. He's an intelligent player. Like, he's going to try. He's probably a little bit better on the ball than you want to give him credit for just because he's big and he's feisty. But, yeah, it's going to be a process for him. He's a rookie. But he's going to knock down shots from day one for sure.
Okay. And
Okay.
No, another one I got is, I think you were pretty big on Anthony Black. So how do you feel about his fit going down to Orlando now?
Yeah, there was a lot of smoke. We mocked him there at No Ceilings. I don't love it from a fit perspective. I think, look, I love taking the best player available. And if they thought that he was definitely the best player available on the board, like, I get it. But at some point, you got to start building a team and not just assembling a roster. And, I'm assuming that Fultz is going to be the starter. He had a great year. If you're going to pair him with Fultz, another big guy, you put him next to Franz and Paolo and Wendell Carter. There's just nobody there that could shoot the ball. Who's the best shooter of the bunch? Maybe Franz, maybe Wendell Carter. Like, not great. Now, Jet Howard at 11, he's a great shooter. And they got to get more. Suggs, another poor shooter. So, like, these combinations that they're going to throw out, again, they don't fit. They don't make sense. Now, Anthony Black is a super high IQ, fast processor. Like, he is a connective piece. He's going to be able to find a way to contribute wherever. But this league is about shooting. I mean, in the playoffs, it comes down to, like, you make threes, you have a chance to win the game. And if you don't make threes, you don't have a chance to win the game. They can't make threes yet. They got a lot of talented guys. The pieces don't fit. But if they're expecting to win next year, I think maybe they're going to have a more similar year to the one that they just had, unless they do some stuff in free agency. If they're just trying to take the process slowly and, play the long game and just collect assets, then it makes sense. Anthony Black could hoop. And he's the guy that, of all the prospects that I talked to behind the scenes, and I was like, who was the guy that was like the toughest? They were like, yo, Anthony Black can go. Like, that kid is tough. He's always putting pressure on the rim. He's a smart passer. Like, he can go.
Okay. Do you think the Magic are going to be similar to the Houston Rockets just because of all the amount of youth?
I think that I think the Magic players process the game a little differently. They play a different style. They play a much more 0.5 connective style. Like, obviously, you could throw the ball down into Paolo and he get on the mid post and do his mellow impression. But for the most part, they're all guys that could dribble, pass, shoot. Whereas, the Houston guys, they got the dribble and shoot part, but I don't know how many of them have the pass part. So that's, to me, the big difference, that the styles are just one team plays the game the way that the modern NBA teams that are having success play it without the shooting. The other one plays it old school, like early 2000s, go get a bucket style.
Gotcha.
How about the Mavs, Corey? The Mavs, a lot of pressure to put some complimentary pieces out there. There was questions that they may trade the pick. Grady Dick was a guy that was favorite there, but they end up going with Dereck Lively and Olivier Maxence Prosper, adding some big man, adding some wing depth and versatility. What do you think about what the Mavs ended up with at the end of draft night?
I like what they did with Lively, especially moving down a couple of spots, offloading the Bertans contract in the process. Lively's a good compliment to Luka. Maybe he's not the best player available on your board, but like, you have Luka Doncic. Like, you got to get pieces that fit around him. You know what I mean? It can't just be let's throw talent against the wall and see if it sticks. And you're hoping that he's kind of like Tyson Chandler-ish, where he's just going to be a garbage man. He's going to run in transition, and he's going to catch oops from Luka. He started out really slow at Duke. He was the number 1, number 2 player coming into the year. And it started slow for that entire Duke team, and he was a part of the reason, but he really came on second half of the year. I think he's going to make a really big impact defensively, which is what they need. And then Omax is a guy, when I saw him at the Big East tournament, I was like, oh, wow. Like, he pops in the way like an NBA player pops. You just noticed him on the court. He was just doing things out there, making plays, running out in transition, being athletic, being big. But I think, he may have got a little bit overrated in this draft process because he had a great combine, shut it down early, and he was doing things in the combine that we hadn't seen in college, like handling pick and roll and stuff. But that's not stuff he's doing at the next level. It just is like, maybe he could do it, further down the line, but not a great shooter. Doesn't generate a ton of steals or blocks for somebody with his, physical measurements. He's much more of an on-ball, play it safe kind of guy. But he's more of like an energy guy, like, I don't know, like Mo Harkless, something like that. So he's a nice player, but I think he's a little bit more raw than people, started talking about him in the draft process, just because he worked out for like 18 teams. Like, he's a super competitor. Like, he's got all the intangible stuff, but I just think he's a little bit further away for this Mavericks team, where I think Lively can actually step in and do some stuff next year.
Once again, we're talking to Corey Tulliver of the No Ceilings podcast, talking about our NBA Draft 2023 winners and losers, reacting to some of the big picks of the night. Call us up if you got questions, man, 657-383-1509, or you could hit us up on the NBA Report Discord. Corey, our Knicks, man, me and Alex's Knicks, had us going through the night waiting for the trade. No trade, but they did come out with Obi Toppin's brother Jacob and Jalen Martin, who came out of the G League Ignite. What's the intel on these guys, man?
So Jalen Martin, he actually was the overtime elite.
Overtime elite.
Yeah. Overtime elite, which is worse than the G League Ignite. But he's a kid. He likes to get downhill. He's athletic. I think he shot 28% from three. So, the shot's not really there. He's okay. I doubt, look, Westchester's nice this time of year is what I'll say to him.
Yeah.
Jacob Toppin's a little
fired.
Jacob Toppin's a little bit more interesting to me. I think he's probably going to spend some time in the G League as well. But like Obi, he's athletic. He started shooting it a little bit better this year. Skinny, has to put on more weight, definitely. But I think the NBA style is going to help him out a little bit in a way that Kentucky didn't always. He was somebody coming into the year that I was like, all right, he could be a sleeper maybe. Now he was a little bit older, so I didn't expect him to like shoot up draft boards or anything, because he didn't have like the self-creation ability necessarily that Obi did when he was in college. And in Kentucky, there's a little bit more, there's more mouths to feed in Kentucky than like there were at Dayton for Obi. But I think that he's gonna definitely get a cup of coffee as an NBA player for sure.
All right, well, I mean, look, at least, they got him on the two-way contracts, both of them. I never saw NBA type of play in Trevor Keels. I don't think he should be brought back. You can have 3 two-ways now, so we'll see what happens there. But overall, you think these guys could get, some back end of the rotation type of minutes, maybe maybe not now, but down the road?
Yeah, Toppin for sure. I mean, Jalen Martin, the thing with the Overtime Elite League, and, I got to see him work out in front of NBA teams at the Overtime Elite Pro Day in Atlanta earlier this year. Saw him at a tournament in New Jersey against some of the best high school competition. That's what it was. They're playing high school competition. Like the Thompson twins were 20 years old, so obviously there are some guys, there that were pro level, but they're playing high school comp, and now you're jumping up to the best league in the world. So the transition from that league now to the pros for somebody like him who can't shoot is going to be tough. Now he's, I like how he moves on the court. I like how he attacks downhill. He could hit his free throws, but it was just a hard league to take stuff out of because, it's new. And again, there's that mix. Now I think it's going to get easier going forward because I don't think we're going to see these Thompson situations going forward because now that you can do the NIL deals, it's going to be used much more like a high school academy or a European basketball academy where these guys, they're all 4 and 5 stars. Like they're already committing to big time college programs. We just saw a kid go from OTE. Now he's going to be with the Ignite next year. That's how this is going to be used going forward. But this first 2 years, these guys who signed the contracts to be there for 2 years before NIL, they got caught, in a weird situation. And I think it's going to be a big time adjustment for him playing against, these pro level guys.
Good stuff, man. Now, on the next topic, which is kind of related to the draft, at number 3, the Blazers selected Scoot Henderson. The Dame talk has been going on since the finals. What were the Blazers going to do with 3? Are they going to pair 3 and Simons to try to get veteran help with Dame? They end up going with Scoot Henderson. How do you see this thing playing out, man? What happens with Dame, man?
Ultimately, nothing's going to happen until Dame says it, right? Like it's going to be Dame finally coming around and being like, I don't want to be a part of this rebuild. And I almost feel like the Blazers are playing a game of chicken with him where they're like, hey, we're willing to keep you around. He means too much to the city. And you got to remember, it's not like he's just been there since he's been a rookie. He played at Weber State in that area too. Like he has been there his entire adult life. So for him too, like I don't think it's an easy decision. I don't think his wife wants to leave. Until he actually just goes, you know what, I got to move on, then I don't think it's going to happen. And for the Blazers, they're going to be patient with it because they have Scoot Henderson, they have Shaedon Sharpe, and then they got a nice young piece in Anthony Simons. Like they have these nice young players that they could just go, whenever Dame is ready to go, we're going to get a haul for him. And in the meantime, they're going to get to learn how to play from with a guy like Dame and learn from Dame. You talk about a veteran. From everything I've heard about Dame, like he is in the gym early every single day. If he's upset, nobody would know about it because he is doing the same professional things that he's done his whole career, working harder than anybody. First guy to get there, last guy to leave, as professional as it gets. And he keeps coming out and saying it like, I don't want to leave. I don't know. Like if you like where you live, and you're
Yeah,
happy,
yeah.
and you're playing NBA ball, like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to leave, and maybe they won't move him, and they'll just try to merge the two timelines, which doesn't really ever work. But if you have a guy like Scoot, who any team would like to start their franchise with, or at least 29 of the teams would like to start their franchises with, then you can be patient and try to merge those timelines until Scoot's ready to take the reins.
Al, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, like, I feel like you can try to merge the two timelines, but we just see that it's just so difficult to do. I mean, we could just look at the Warriors, right, with Kuminga, Moses Moody, even with Wiseman.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to compete,
Beal.
you're trying to develop, those are two different timelines. I just don't see how the Trailblazers are going to be able to manage that. And when you select someone like Scoot Henderson, I feel like this should just be writing on the wall for Dame that it's time for him to go and somewhere else at this point, just because you see they drafted Scoot. You got all these young players, and then on top of that, you have Mike Schmitz from ESPN, who's known for his draft coverage. Like, you just don't bring someone like that in just to say we're going to start building around Dame and do all of this
And bringing in that vets. Bringing in that better piece.
Yeah, so I feel like they're just getting poised to start that rebuild, and I think Dame just has to be honest with himself, and I think they're trying to say, Dame, just say you want to go, man. Just like, please say you want to go so we can start this thing.
Here's what I'll say, though. They did draft Chris Murray.
Yeah,
later in the draft, who's 23 years old and is more of a win now type of rookie. Still has potential for sure, but not as much as his brother, and is definitely old for a rookie, and is more of a win now guy, a guy you would expect one of the teams like Golden State or the Nuggets would have targeted. Now, the other thing I'll say, with the difference between the Warriors merging two timelines and the Blazers potentially doing it, is the Warriors don't have a talent like Scoot. Like, to me, this is more reminiscent of when the Bulls lucked into the Derrick Rose lottery, and they were already kind of a playoff team. They just had a down year, and then Rose came, and you were like, oh, this is going to be the guy. And now, like, he's going to be ready to go from day one. He's already got 2 years of pro experience coming in. He's probably the most, physically strong guard in the league already. He is a brick house, and I'm not saying that he is the talent that Derrick Rose was. I think that Derrick Rose is significantly more athletic. I just think he was a tier above as a prospect, but Scoot is a special prospect, and it makes it a little bit easier to merge timelines when you're getting a rotation player versus you draft a guy like Kuminga or Wiseman, and you're like, oh, well, maybe this is going to take some time. Like, it's not going to take time with Scoot. You're getting a rotation guy from day one. So if you were to merge the two timelines, you probably keep Sharp, you probably move on from Simons and try to get, somebody who, I think he has value. I think you can get a vet, who could help you. Maybe you try to sign some more defenders, and
they definitely
re-sign Grant, re-sign Grant. They also drafted a kid that is a Mike Schmitz special and Ran Rupert out of the Australian league, but the other French kid in the draft that they're going to sign to a guaranteed deal for cheap, and he's got a 7'3" wingspan. He's a defensive guy, kind of reminds me of Thabo Sefolosha. There is a path for them to blend the two timelines in a much more comfortable way than a team like the Warriors were able to, just because the talent difference with Scoot and those guys is so significant.
Now, speaking of the Dubs, man, they made a move a couple of days ago, man. They had to sacrifice Jordan Poole. Dubs of a couple of teams in this league that were facing cap hell with the new CBA rules, a $500 million tax bill for that the Dubs are looking at. They hire Mike Dunleavy Jr. as the new GM, taking over for Bob Myers. I thought it was going to come down between Clay and Poole in terms of who was going to get sacrificed here for the long term, and it was Poole. They end up trading Jordan Poole to the Wizards for Chris Paul and Jordan Poole and 2 first-round picks, 1 top 20 protected for Chris Paul. What do you think about that move for the Dubs, man?
I think it makes sense. Poole obviously had a good run in that championship run, but last year he was so inconsistent. Obviously, it was a little awkward given the Draymond situation. And you're bringing in Chris Paul, who is older, but this guy is a smart player that wants to win. and again, getting moved here is going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to a rival now of another team that wants to compete in the conference. And I think they're just going to be able to figure it out on that end, getting Chris Paul, getting the point guard who offers something a little bit different that they don't have, a guy who can slow the game down, run pick and roll really effectively. I mean, getting to his mid-range pull-up with Steph and Clay, spacing on both sides of the court. I think it could really, really work. Maybe it's a slow transition trying to figure out, who can play on the ball, who could play off the ball. But like Chris figured it out with James Harden in Houston, right? I mean,
yeah.
We could say that fit was awkward or whatever, but they pushed that Warriors team at its peak
they won
further
60
than
games.
any other team. That took the team to what, 7 or whatever, and Chris Paul got hurt.
Yeah.
Well, they pushed him further than anybody ever, and he was a part of that. So clearly, he's a guy who could figure that stuff out. Every team that he ever goes to wins.
Every team.
At least get to his.
He transform every team.
Every team. He's one of the smartest players to ever step on a court. So he's going to figure it out. Obviously, he's on the downside of his career, but for the Warriors, I love Dunleavy being aggressive like this, coming out, making a move to be like, hey, we're not trying to blend timelines anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We are ready to take advantage of Steph Curry's post prime or the end of his prime, whatever it is. Like they did that with Chris Paul. They did it with their draft selections. Instead of taking the Kuminga, the Wiseman, the raw guys, they took Brandon Pajemski out of Santa Clara, who, had one of the most productive college seasons from a guard like in recent memory. They took Trace Jackson Davis out of Indiana, who, just had one of the best college seasons from a production standpoint in recent memory from a big man. Like they went and got guys who could produce, who think the game, and who are going to complement the team stylistically. So, credit to them for being ballsy and making this move.
Yeah, I give him a lot of credit for being able to, look, on paper, the CP3 thing looks great. Now, injuries is going to play a factor. They're all older. When you look at Steph, Clay, Draymond, CP3, that's always going to be a risk. But on paper, I think that if there's anybody that can figure this thing out, it's CP3. He's a genius. Draymond Green is a genius. Steph Curry's a genius. They got Steve Kerr to figure it all out. I think he definitely improves their bench, because that bench, they were looking for somebody who could help play make. They wanted Poole to kind of be that guy. He was chucking all over the place. Seemed like he had just worn out his welcome between the ineffective play, not really buying in with the coach, Draymond situation. It just seemed like he had run his course, and that contract is looking more and more expensive. So as a Band-Aid, they push the chips to the middle for one more run. As you said, they get younger in the draft. Maybe it's a CP3 that can help a Kuminga, a Moody, these new draft picks that are coming in here this year, help them develop and get acclimated. And we'll see what happens. I'm not going to necessarily put them over the Suns or the Nuggets by any stretch, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
They should be up there. What I think you got with this team, right? I think for Chris Paul, he's kind of like that Sean Livingston role, where you have someone who can kind of change it up, run the offense while Steph's on the bench, or even if you want to have CP3, Steph, and Clay out there. The more I thought about it, it would be reminiscent of what CP3 did out in OKC, right? Where you had him, Schroeder, and SGA. So he succeeded in that 3-guard lineup. He succeeded with James Harden.
Yeah.
CP, as you said, he's a genius. You're going to have 4 guys really on that court, including Clay, who just understand the game at a high level. I think they can all figure it out. It'll be interesting just to see how that performs. I would expect them to be up there. I expect them to be like a top 4 team with that type of roster. All that, if they're all healthy.
Health.
Of course. If they're all healthy.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Health, man. Okay, next trade, next blockbuster. Porzingis and Smart, man. The Celtics getting Kristaps Porzingis. Originally tried to send Brogdon out of there, but then they send Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies then send 2 first-round picks to the Celtics, and they send Tyus Jones to the Wizards, man. For me, I look at it as, I like the trade in a certain respect for all teams, but I also don't like it in a certain respect. Like, for the Celtics, okay, you get Porzingis in there, you kind of alter your offensive firepower. He played well on both ends of the floor last year, probably his best two-way season in quite a while. So you add that there with Horford coming back to the pack and kind of going downhill. You got Porzingis and Robert Williams there. You get your 2 bigs. I kind of like that. But boy, oh boy, Marcus Smart, that was the heart. That was the flow of everything. Their toughness, their coach on the court, the guy that would draw the tough offensive fouls. The guy, yes, he flops his way all over the place, but he knows the mental aspect of the game. Cerebral. Never met a shot he didn't like, but sometimes he would knock down those timely threes. You know, to me, you lose Udoka, who had the players' respect, who had the locker room. You lose Smart now, who had the players' respect, he had the locker room. Your defensive captain and anchor. I don't know if this is a good one for the C's, man. I'm just not sure. What do you think?
I kind of like it, to be honest. I mean, Porzingis is coming off a really, really, really good season, right? Like maybe arguably his best season of his career. And, you know, thinking back to Knicks fans, you had Porzingis when he was younger. You saw the potential in him and the type of player he could be. You know, if you take yourself back to that time when you were still, you know, fans of him as the player prospect in person, and you were like, you got the season you just got out of him and knew that he had a little bit more maturity and introspection to him as a person, you wouldn't want to give that up for Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
You know, from a talent perspective, I think that this is the kind of swing they really needed to make. I mean, you know, Horford was not a consistent shooter, you know, in those playoffs. You know, throughout the year, he was knocking shots down, you know, one of the best stretch bigs in the league. But when it came down to the playoffs where, you know, those windows get a little tighter and you got to actually do it, you know, with some pressure on you, he's at the point of his career where he didn't have that consistency.
He didn't have it.
And Marcus Smart, like you said, never met a shot he didn't like. So he's not a guy who's going to hit those kind of threes with consistency. Porzingis is the type of shooter that will shoot it with consistency, and you can't really block his shot. He gives them a new dimension. Robert Williams is never healthy. Talk about health. Like, you know, like you can't rely on him. And Porzingis has those concerns too, for sure, you know, obviously. But I think from a talent perspective, look, it almost felt like Marcus Smart happened to be a luxury because Dariq White offers a lot of the same things that Marcus does just without the theatrics. But as a player in that offense, he offers that. You know, Brogdon, we'll see. You know, when he's on the court, you know, he's great. But obviously, like, he can't even get traded. The health concerns are so intense right now. But I think this is exactly the kind of move that they needed to make if they weren't going to trade Jaylen Brown. And, you know, look, you talk about the heart and soul, the toughness. I don't know how tough this team was to begin with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they go down, they came back from 3-0 and they showed some mental toughness there, but they're never the team that is, you know, even last year before they went in their run to the finals, they were up and down. And it's not like Marcus Smart's toughness, you know, really was the deciding factor between turning it around. It was Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum stepping it up a level. At the end of the day, it's going to fall on, you know, Tatum's shoulders and being a top 3 to 5 player in the league. And I think that, you know, Porzingis could be a legit number 3 option in this scenario. And this is a trade for the playoffs, not the regular season. So, you know, you got to take the emotion out of it. And I get it. You know, that's how I felt about Kirk Heinrich. I was sad to see him go. Yeah. But you got to take the emotion out of it and do what's best for the team. And, you know, I think Brad Stevens did that.
Al, go ahead real quick on the season, then go in on the Memphis side of things.
Yeah, one thing on the Celtics, like you guys said, Marcus Smart saw a shot that he didn't like. And Bill Simmons on his podcast always said the ball would find him at the big moments for all these shots, right? Even when we saw against Miami, he had the ball in his hands for the final 3 before Dariq White got the layup to seal it. For me, you talk about the heart and soul, and I add those type of moments, and it's because I don't see Tatum and Brown really stepping up in those moments. And then it's like, all right, if your guys are not going to do it, and you guys should be the ones doing it, I'm going to do it. And he was the only one that had the stones enough to do it. So I think losing a guy like that is going to hurt a lot for the Celtics. That's all I have to say. But for Memphis, like, I think, look, you're getting a guy who's going to bring some veteran leadership to a squad that really needs it, especially with what's going on with John Morant. You're not going to have him for 25 games. I like what Marcus Smart brings. I think he's an underrated facilitator, in all honesty, like when it comes to playmaking. Obviously, we know about the defense. It wasn't the same as 2 seasons ago when he won Defensive Player of the Year award. But who knows? Maybe this is the type of trade that gets him reinvigorated again, and he shows this is why you should not have traded me. And he really helps this Memphis Grizzlies team go to another level.
Yeah, I like it. You know, we talked about them needing some OGs, man. It looked like Dylan Brooks had worn out his welcome the way they talked about we're not bringing him in under any circumstance. Ja is treading on thin ice. Yeah, they have Steven Adams there, but, you know, I like Smart there. Losing Tyus Jones is going to be big, no question about it, right? The best backup point guard in the league. He gets a chance to start for the Wizards, so that's a fresh new change of scenery for him, which is good. But for the Memphis, obviously Smart will continue to add to their defense, give them some toughness there. You can play him and Ja in that backcourt. Maybe you have Desmond Bane out there. Maybe you go 3-guard rotation. You have some defense there. You could spread the floor for those guys, knock down an open three. So it'll be interesting. I think they still need some more firepower to really be legit in the West. But you know, we'll see where it goes from there, man. Corey, what'd you think about Smart to Memphis?
I think it's going to be really hard running pick and roll against Triple J and Marcus Smart. I think that you're going to want to stay away from that. So I like it for them. You know, they need an adult in the room, man. Yeah, just straight up an adult in the room that's going to, you know, not just kind of call somebody out when, you know, it gets to a breaking point. Like when he sees something that is out of line, like he's not going to be afraid to step up as a guy who has the pedigree playing in a ton of big games and doing a lot of winning. Like he's going to be able to show them what that's about. Obviously he's grit and grind to a T. Like he is going to be a seamless fit into the culture of that city. And you know, the fabric of what that team has built as an identity over the last, you know, 15 years. But ultimately that team, man, it all comes down to, is Ja Morant going to decide to be an adult? And when he comes back, mature, grow up, just focus on basketball and leave it at that. He's the engine. He's going to be the deciding factor on whether or not they make a deep playoff run or they don't.
True indeed, man. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA report on the check-in. CP the Franchise, Alex Rotaros, Corey Tulliver of the No Ceilings podcast. We just been giving our NBA Draft 2023 reactions, winners and losers, and talking about the various trades in the league. If you guys are new in the chat, leave us a hashtag new. We will shout you guys out. Salute to Dragon Zone on the check-in. Just checked in and said they are new to the channel. Now, next two topics I kind of want to run through rapid fire just in the interest of time. And two topics you're very familiar with, Corey. It was announced today that Lonzo Ball not expected.
Oh, that one first.
Yeah. We'll finish with the juicy topic. Lonzo Ball not expected to play next season, man. Unfortunate, but it seems like it's over for Lonzo, man. I don't think he can recover from this. It seems like it's done. What do you think?
Yeah, this was not breaking news. I don't think. You know, it was just an official announcement. Yeah. I think Bulls fans have kind of come to this realization for a while. I mean, he hasn't played basketball in a year and a half, something like that. You know, and the rumors even before it was he's not going to play this year, where he's not going to make it for at least the start of the season. So, it's unfortunate. He was playing the best basketball of his career. He was the engine that made the team go. He's the reason they had that success. He's the guy that was going to kind of make or break the Vucevic trade as the glue. You know, now that Vucevic trade looks a little bit worse because the Bulls, you know, have been this middle of the pack team because, you know, one of their biggest free agent acquisitions didn't play, right? So they built this team specifically to, you know, mesh everybody's strengths together. It really worked. He was the heart and soul of the defense. It's unfortunate. I bought a Lonzo Ball jersey as a fan, you know, and I hadn't bought a Bulls jersey in a while just because I loved how he played, what he brought to the team. So sad news, but unfortunately not surprising news.
Sucks, man. I like Lonzo. I wanted him on the Knicks when he became when he was with that restricted free agency for him. Like, it just stinks, man, because he's a good point guard. The defense, he improved his 3-point shot. You talked about great engine for that Bulls team, and you just even saw what he could be in those moments on the Pelicans. Just that team was it was a hodgepodge team, not really constructed well together. And then seeing him flourish with the Bulls, that team was poised to have a good run. I mean, you just saw it. How many games did they win that first year with Lonzo before he got injured? It was it just seemed undefeatable, and he was able to get Lavine and DeRozan in the right spots for them to look great. Without him, it's tough sailing, man. It's tough sailing with Lonzo.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Speedy recovery to Lonzo Ball, and obviously you hope that he can reclaim his career, but just not looking good, and for such a young talent that came in with so much promise, and has a flair for the game, especially in making his team better. It's tough. Absolutely tough one, man. Now, this topic came in late on the newswire, man. Corey, whenever you come on, we always talk Zach Lavine. Zach Lavine. Well, according to Stephen Bondi of the New York Daily News, Zach Lavine's representatives are against a trade to the Knicks. Zach Lavine represented by Clutch Sports' Rich Paul. Rich Paul studied under the tutelage of one Leon Rose and CAA. Once upon a time, they were one big happy family. You see the pictures with LeBron holding the trophy. It's Worldwide West. It's Rich Paul. It's Mav Carter. It's Leon. The whole family under the CAA umbrella.
PP.
Yeah. I was somewhere in there. And then, Rich Paul splits off, splintered factions, and now you got two crime families running the NBA, man. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Like, is Rich Paul and Clutch really going to do what's best for their client, or are they out to just do what's best for them? Because it's so interesting, man. You look at the Knicks, down the roster, it's CAA to the T. You look at the Lakers, it's Clutch down the road. I mean, this looks like an extension of college basketball with the shoe contracts.
Biggie and Pac.
Corey, what do you think, man?
I mean, you know how political the behind the scenes of NBA basketball is, man. Ultimately, I mean, look, New York City is not the place that you're going to be like, absolutely no way, I ain't going there. Zach Lavine has a good relationship with Tibbs. He always speaks highly of him. I think if it came down to it, and that was the Bulls were like, hey, we are trading you, and these are your options, and New York's on the list, and then it's also, let's say like Detroit and Indiana, he'd probably start reconsidering how appealing New York looked in that scenario that, right? Yeah. But I don't know. It's just they're always linked somehow in the news. It's been this way. We've been having this conversation for years. I just don't know if it's meant to be. Sometimes in life, you meet those people who you feel like there's a connection to. It just, the timing never works out. It's not meant to be. I don't know if it's going to be meant to be for Zach Lavine and the New York Knicks. And it seems like the Bulls are fine running it back.
Seems so.
That all indications are team run it back.
Yeah.
Which, we just talked about. They don't have Lonzo, so they actually can't fully run it back as to what made them successful. And they don't really have many avenues to improve in free agency. So, it'll be a perfectly mediocre season out in Chicago where Zach Lavine will eventually, get his points, probably make a play-in first round playoff run, something like that. And we could have this conversation again next year.
There you go, man.
Zach Lavine will go into the names of Chris Paul, Rajon Rondo, all these names that, we wanted on the Knicks or was linked to the Knicks in some way or some manner. That's the company he'll fall in, CP and Corey.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. Never say never. And some Knicks fans want to see it happen. Some Knicks fans want to see the Paul George situation. Paul George gets sent to the Knicks, but it's just interesting, man. Because as much as you don't want to believe, as much as you don't want to put on the tinfoil hat, like I said, you look at the Knicks, and if they went to Kentucky, and they represented by CAA, there's a great chance they're coming to the Knicks.
Hey, they got that with Toppin's brother.
They got that. They got Jacob Toppin. They're still leaving the light on for Spider Mitchell. We'll see what happens in Phoenix. Maybe it's Devin Booker. It's Embiid. Those are the only guys that we really talk about seriously are the CAA connected players, man. So it's just it's very interesting, man. But we'll see what happens there. And great show, fellas, man. Another edition of the NBA Report. Corey, great job on all the draft coverage this year. You said you're going to Summer League, right?
Oh yeah.
All right.
What days are going to be there?
6th to the 11th.
6th to the 11th. Okay.
I'll see you there.
Let's do it.
I'm still trying to figure out scheduling arrangement. The Summer League schedule did drop.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see if I could drop in for like 2 days or so. If so, man, we'll definitely do the link up. We got the studio in Vegas, man. You can come through, do some reactions to some of the players that are already
Blue Wire too now.
That's it. That's right. Did you book studio time?
we requested it. I don't know what the answer is. So that's not my department.
All right. So, we'll talk about it off air, man. But, yeah, great show. Great show, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday on the NBA Report, man. More trades, more trade rumors, more trade news, and Summer League right around the corner, man. So keep it locked. Great show. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Subscribe and share this video. Have a great weekend, everybody. Peace.